Okay, this is the first play I wanted to talk about. Starting right off, initial kickoff, we have the kick, and both people go out. Um, and let's go a little bit further here. So, it's fine to have both people split to go for the two boosts here, um, up at this level, because you're fast enough to be able to get back to net. Once this challenge is decided, it's going to Nyx. Spoopy, you can't be going this far out. Ideally, you make this turn. It's really hard to read because it's at the same time. So a lot of times you will end up doing this, but take as shallow of a route as possible coming back this way. If you come all the way back up in this way, then now you're exposed all the way on the backside, which I'll show you here in a second. Continuing on, we have a hit and Spoopy's gone up and now he's having to come back at the ball this way. And now, since you're pointed this way, Nick's out of a play, and Colt is coming around behind you, you're exposed in this whole area right here in the center. So what they should be looking at doing is banging the ball back here on a pass and looking for a redirect shot. And they're able to do that a lot easier because you've pointed yourself this way rather than coming out this way where you can make that turn. Now you've very much limited your options to only challenging at this touch. And Casey isn't able to challenge nearly as well because he's still coming back off and around off of the kickoff. Play continues and we get the clear. And okay, now we've moved on to offense. Um, First, this is fine because of the fast break. Typically, you want to have the second man looking right behind here, like Spoopy's doing, to have his back in case anything comes and he needs to charge in. But he's able to do that because the third man shouldn't be this far over here. So even if you're out of boost, you need to wait a second before you go out this way. First of all, you're leaving your net exposed. If this goes wrong, Spoopy's too close to be able to stop any kind of pinch or high bounce off the ceiling thing over here. And it could very easily land over his head, um, potentially leaving vulnerabilities here. The other thing is you just create too much space. So now you are all this far away from the ball, which means for you to be able to come in, it's going to take much, much longer than it should if you were kind of in this position looking at moving up, grabbing a little bit of boost along the way. Um, and we'll see that play out here. So he taps it back to Spoopy, who just misses, and Nick Nack comes in. So, actually, let me change this angle real quick. Okay, so here we have, ideally, Nick should be, oops, yeah. Ideally, Nick should be looking at passing the ball up to Colt, because Spoopy's just coming through here for a lob redirect on the backside. Um, Speedy's aware of this, and he does a good job of blocking that angle so that that pass isn't possible, forcing Nick to shoot it more centered than he'd like. And he gets that pop-up. So at this point, the rotation is showing you need to always follow the rotation of the back man, especially when it's ambiguous, when your back man is here and you're overextended with two people up in front. So your back man is showing that he's going this way. Also, KC was the original person who was looking at passing to, who had a better position and more time to be able to get this. So you should be looking at rotations that are looking like this. So when this pops up, Spoopy should be looking back and KC should be looking for this touch. And this you do right. So here we have KC going up towards this and Spoopy's coming around. Here's where the mistake happens. So we've kind of switched our triangle, which is totally fine because we've kept our spacing here, and either side should be ready to come in if it's yours. So Nick Nack is in a position to where he can either come in and charge, or he can turn out and go on defense if necessary. Spoopy, however, has already made his decision. While he's seeing this shot, he's already pointed directly back, rather than being in a sideways either or kind of position. Um, or far enough back where he can kind of turn. So at this point, you do need to be able to come in quickly on this. This next one should be your ball. Instead, what we see is Spoopy continue to back out away from the ball. So this happened really quickly, but it's still the same example of what I always talk about of rotating back on the ball side. So the ball is over here on the left, and Spoopy is rotating out to defense on the left. It is the way you do shadow defense, and it is necessary if you're the last man back. However, your job here isn't to protect the net. Your job here is to slow down the play long enough for Nick Knack to be the goalie. So your job here as the backman, or coming in here, is just to get a touch or to mess up Speedy just long enough for Nick to be able to come from the backside and have a lot more time and a much better chance at getting this next save. Instead of Spoopy coming up and Nick going back, what we see instead is Spoopy goes back and Nick cuts across. And this is where the big error comes into play. So at this point, Spoopy's backed out and Nick comes across. And at the same time, we have Casey, who was rotating around this way, is now coming back here, and we have an overload. So first of all, Spoopy should be coming this way, Nick should be going back, and Casey, as soon as she sees the ball, the rotation flip, needs to be taking a wider angle out and around to be able to fall in behind Nick here. Instead, we get everybody coming back on the same side, and Nick has to challenge sideways. And this causes two problems. First of all, there's nobody on this entire half of the field over here, because you've cut from the backside of the field at the ball, and that's something you never want to do. You only move side to side away from the ball because you always want the attacker coming from the better position. So here we have Nick doing the opposite, coming across, and everybody's on this same side. So even if Nick wins this touch, ideally all he can do is tap it over here and slow it down, giving up possession, maybe give it a big boom off the wall and launch it back this way. But again, there's nobody over here. So unless he can pull out some kind of miracle touch and make the shot like right off the bat, then this is just conceding the ball to blue team no matter what. So now you've overloaded the team, and we've also have a touch that really has no use. So we get that touch, and he wins the challenge, but just as you see, even though he wins the challenge, both people are moving back on the same side, so nobody's in a position to be able to help him get this next touch. So inevitably, the other team is in position with Speedy, looking to pick up the ball and takes the hit. Now they're in the same position as you typically, as we had been before. You have one man back, you have one man on the ball, and you have one man ahead of a play here for them. So Speedy here should be looking at getting the pass here to Comp, who's making a turn for a redirect. Would be their ideal play most of the time. However, since we have this cross now, the backside is completely exposed. So recognizing this, Speedy pops it out towards the middle because Andy's all alone here with everybody too far up and showing on this side, that if Speedy's able to get a big lob over here to Andy, he can have a very good shot at either the net or redirecting here to Comp for a second redirect to the net. So here we have exactly that. He pops it out to Andy, who at that point would... Spoopy does a good job of recovering here. Had that been a little bit of a higher pass, maybe a little bit further back, it could have been in a position where Spoopy can't challenge this, just because he was too far this way. Had it been more of a banger pass out to the side, you could have been in a lot of trouble here. At this point, Casey would be all alone, having to defend the shot coming from blue team right here, and then now he has to defend the net, and he also has to defend the backside redirect from Comp. So now if this had been a better pass, they would have it would be coming from over here. They would have multiple good options, and Casey would just kind of have to take a guess or get lucky or hope that he doesn't see. Most likely they'd be passing back to comp because it's very hard to defend behind yourself. But if you slow down too much to protect this, then he can bang it to this corner. So either way, had this been a better pass, they could have gotten an open look at your net. Instead, they get out and around, and y'all are able to get the clear. But I did want to stress that even though this one didn't end up in a goal against you, the cut across here to the overload left you extremely vulnerable as far as defense goes, and kind of put everybody out of position. So the two things were the spacing here to set up a play, and then the backside rotations here and the cut across. Alright, so very next play on the kickoff, we have exactly what I was warning about. So we have the split come, and both people come up. We have Spoopy here on the left, coming up to challenge on his side, and we also have Knickknack moving up very aggressively on the far side rather than moving back towards the net. Since he's on the backside of a defense, he should be looking here to have Spoopy's back. Instead, he continues his forward route, and net's exposed. So exactly as I was saying before, if you take more of a route this way, Nick can be in a position to where you at least have a good chance at clearing this. You should probably be able to make that clear. The reason you're not able to do it is because you took such an aggressive approach out of kickoff. So if you're going to do the split, that's fine. Just make sure you're paying attention to where the ball goes, and whichever side it comes to, that side challenges, and the other side goes back to net. Alright, and in the very next kickoff we have another team blunder with a super overcommit. So we have Casey go up, Spoopy's going to cheat, and Nick goes across, and Casey wins the kickoff here. So here, 9 times out of 10, the backman is going to come in and take this ball off of him. This is, however, that 1 time in 10 where Spoopy, you should actually be going away from the ball. Because Casey's momentum carries him here away from both of the other people here, he has no choice but to go this way. So he should be continuing on this ball. If he can keep it, you can look up to work with him here. Otherwise, you're looking at going around and back. Nick is the one coming up from the backside, and he should be looking to have Colt's back. If Colt doesn't have the boost, he can tap it out this way and let Nick grab it and come up is another option. But because his momentum carried him with the ball, you need to concede that to him and go around. Instead, what we see is you follow it in along with Colt, while Knickknack's coming in to support, and now we have all 3 people in the same spot here. So if, or most likely when, this ball gets pinched or pinballed out of there, the entire rest of the field is wide open. I don't think I need to explain why that is poor. And then backside rotation by Colt, there's not really much you can do about that. He didn't have time to go all the way around because you were exposed, and they're able to capitalize.